If you know anything about BMX, you know who Matt Hoffman is. And maybe that's all you know.
I mean, he was so ahead of his time. It's like people are still trying to catch up to where he was at 15 years ago.
Never doing it for the money or doing it for any other reason than he just truly enjoys what he does.
When they look at Matt and the things that he's done on a bicycle, God almighty, I mean, I'm stuck in my own little world that even I didn't know who Matt Hoffman was. Boy, now I know. Now I know.
Gnarly means he defines big and he defines balls.
Matt's mission is to test possibility. To get there, he's had to break the rules, break convention, break his body, his bank account, whatever price had to be paid to do the impossible. He came out of nowhere and started winning everything. At 15 years old, Matt was already one of the best riders in the sport, and nobody his age could beat him. But to be the best, sometimes he slammed the worst.
He just wants to be progressive all the time, whether it be doing the first 900 or the first backflip flare. And he's probably invented more variations than most pros can actually perform.
I think he's the kind of guy that always wants to push limits somehow, some way. I mean, whether it's riding a bike or going in and starting a contest series, in the end, it's for everybody. It's not just for Matt.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for the invite, Club 29. It is a true honor. My name is Matt Hoffman. I ride bicycles. I manufacture bicycles. I've been making bicycles for 30 years. I also do events. I organize the X Games for the past 25 years. I'm the organizer for all the bicycle contests for the X Games. And I'm president of the World Championships, which I hope to bring to Oklahoma City someday. So, and thank you. Yeah, this discussion is just entitled "Anything is Possible" because you just have to dream and make it happen. I think the truest thing to me is dreaming. I think if you dream hard enough, it becomes reality. And if you're a compulsive dreamer, then I don't think really reality has a choice. I think that if there's a will, there's a way. No matter what anybody might say, if you have a heart and you believe in yourself and go for it, and you can't be afraid to fail. I mean, that's one of my biggest teachers in life is failure. I work really hard to fail, actually. And, adversity creates opportunity. I think when things get tough, it makes you dream and take chances and work harder. And to be an innovator, I believe you have to be able to dream, you have to be not scared to fail, and you have to be able to face your fears. I think this is very healthy to face your fears. It gives me the feeling of progression, growth that you're in complete control of. And I do this through riding my bike. I also started skydiving when I was 16 years old. I started base jumping in my 20s. I paraglide. I fly those wingsuits, and then I try to mix my passions up a little bit. Like I like to ride my bike out of the back of planes or off the side of the fjords in Norway and just problem solve, I guess it's called. So I've got some examples I'm going to show you. This first clip that is my first base jump. It was in New Orleans. I was doing a show at the Superdome, and I had to get surgery on my shoulder, my rotator cuff, like the week later. But I've been skydiving a lot, so I was like, okay, it's now or never. It's going to take a while to get back into condition. So I got up like 6 in the morning. I climbed up on top of a bridge that was spanned over the Mississippi River. And it was freezing cold. It was like in January. It started sleeting out. And I was like, and then the wind started picking up. And I was like, this is before I realized that one of the biggest skills that you can develop in these type of sports is knowing when to walk away. But I didn't walk away. And so I jumped. I turned in to get on try to fly to the banks. And then I just held. And I was like, oh, man. So I went straight into the Mississippi, and then the river grabbed my chute like the wind and just started towing me down. I had to cut my chute away. I had to swim hyperthermia style to the banks. Finally got there to see 2 police officers, and he just looked at me and said, "Boy, are you stupid?" And I was like, I was like, officer, you nailed it, man. I don't know. I'm a complete idiot. I don't know what my problem is, but then he cuffed me, put it in the car, and then I was just like, oh man, this is great. I'm gonna miss my surgery. And then my friend just my friend actually just served 90 days because he suction cupped up the St. Louis Arch and then jumped off of it. And then, but then totally got away with it. But then he did an interview in New Orleans where he lived, and then he showed the video, and then he busted himself because he showed the video. And so then the officer got my license. He's like, Oklahoma, what are you doing here? And I was like, I was doing a show at the Superdome. He's like, oh, were you the one doing the flip? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, my boy loved you. And so he called the city off. I totally got out of it. But yeah, if we could show video 2. So this is that's John. That was cool. So this is the Kids' Choice Awards. They asked me to do something that was, I just wanted to do something that was impossible. And just showing that you can dream and make anything happen. So I rode my bike out of the back of a plane at 16,000 feet, and then I landed in a pool of slime. So that was fun. This is Norway when I wanted to figure out how to ride my bike off the side of a cliff. And you go through everything that could go wrong, but I didn't think my leg was gonna get stuck in the pant leg, but it did right there. I mean, my leg was, but okay, anyway, this is jumping over the Snake River Canyon. This is base jumping. This was like about 1.5 years ago. This is my friend in England. This is about 5 months ago, and I just ran off the Dover cliffs, and it was so beautiful. It just all turns white, and then deploy your chute, and then it's my happy place right there. But then I was going to do a show with Tony Hawk, and I went to Montreal, and they had the Montreal Olympic Tower. I was like, hey, can I just jump off that? And they're like, okay. I was like, oh, I love the limited liability of Canada. And so then I jump off, and then I was like, can I jump off again? Like, oh, we got you booked for a meet and greet. And I was like, oh, just tell me what 10 that the meet and greet's at, and I'll just land there. So I landed at the meet and greet, packed up my parachute, and walked in and did my autographs, and that was a fun way to enter. And this is my family. I've gone up in the balloon a few times with them and blown them a kiss and like got vertical. That's one of my favorite views. And then if you look right there, that's Broadway Extension, but don't tell anybody. All right, well, so like that's kind of managing fear, and fear I think is really can be a secret weapon. I use fear. I don't ignore fear. A lot of people like no fear, and I never like that saying because it's like if you don't have fear, you don't have instinct. If you don't have instinct, you don't stay alive. I wouldn't be alive today. So I use fear for its positive influences, and then I manage its negative ones. So what I do is I basically whenever I step to my challenge, I scare the crap out of myself. I think of everything that can go wrong. And I do this for 2 reasons. One is it gives me, it demands my focus to be at like 150%. And then also whenever I get conflicted with the inevitable and I have, I have to make a life-saving decision, I don't hesitate because I've already thought about all the fear. I've already accepted all the fear, and I'm just like, I can kind of go, I can just instinctually just react in the moment. And so that's why I use fear, but I also don't let it consume me, So right whenever I scare myself, then right when I'm about ready to do something, then I just kind of manage it, and I just like I let it be there, but I don't let it just obstruct my focus. And I've done this in other ways outside in the real world without parachutes, but or use this to kind of get my focus on my challenges in front of me. But ways that I've ignored fear and lessons I've had from ignoring fear is I remember in 2002, I was going to challenge my world record high air. And so I invited ABC Wide World of Sports out. They wanted to cover it. And so I did this in Edmond, Oklahoma. I built a big ramp. And I was riding my daughter Gianna. She was a baby, like maybe 1 or 2 years old. And I was just like, everything just didn't really feel right, but I was like, I've set the stage, I've got to perform, I got to deliver, so I'm just gonna go big and just ignore fear. And then the next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital, and they're trying to sew my lip back on because I hit the ground so hard that it blew my helmet up, and the shrapnel lacerated my face, and then And then I'm just like, as I'm waking up, I'm like, oh wait, I think I know what I did wrong. I can get this right. And so I'm just like, I'm like, okay, well, I just give me a couple weeks and I'll get my focus back, and and people were really worried about me, and they're just like, yo, you've got to chill out, like there's a, like you've got a baby now, and it's not about you. You need to learn how to just relax a little bit. And I was just like, it's like, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I need some sort of counseling or something to try to manage my brain, or like. And then as I'm thinking this, Knievel calls me, and I just get out of the hospital, and he's like, hey man, I'm coming through Oklahoma City, and because he'd drive his Winnebago around all the time, and we were really good friends. I mean, we were just we had pretty similar spirits, and so he's like, hey, maybe we can go get some food. I was like, oh, sure. So he met at Bricktown. I think he wanted to go to Mickey Mantle, so we went there. And then so I'm hanging out with him, and he's like, yeah. I was like, well, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to go to Vegas, and I'm going to open up a new Evel Knievel casino, and I'm going to do the first 200-foot jump to open it. And I'm like, Evel, you're like in your 60s, and you're like, you could barely get into this booth we're sitting in right now, like, wait, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm questioning. And he's like, what? When you question Evel, his bravado kind of jumps at you and overshadows everything, and he's just like, I'm Evel Knievel. And I'm like, oh, okay, respect, I got you, but then it made me start thinking, it's like, he's grown old with this spirit, and he's grown old with his mind, and it's like, and that's like something that I just realized, my life might scare people, but it's who I am, and no matter how bizarre you are, you should always be who you are and express who you are. And so, and Evel also said this, or maybe I kind of added a little bit to this, but bones heal, chicks dig scars, pain's temporary, and glory's forever. And so, here's a couple minutes of some trial and errors in my career. Please play video 3.
He's an orthopedic surgeon's dream.
He's more of a nightmare than a dream. Yeah. Because again, even though the way he responds is a dream and his attitude is a dream, the injuries he has been subjected to are a nightmare. I haven't operated on him for every injury. Luckily, a lot have been fractures and sprains and strains too numerous to count. There's not an extremity he hasn't broken in a violent manner.
I remember this one time he hit himself with a pedal and just lacerated his leg. And it's like, we got to take you to the hospital? I was like, no, okay, I got this thing in my backpack. And you just look at that. Who carries around their own suture kit to give themselves stitches? Well, he did. He got so tired of going to the hospital all the time, he's just like, man, I'll just do it myself. And that's with no anesthesia or anything. He's just, full Rambo. He was like the Rambo of BMX.
The most concerning injuries are his concussions, and we don't know the long-term impact of that. But the primary emphasis on Matt's injuries orthopedically have been his shoulders and his knees. And he's had almost too numerous to count surgeries on the knees and the shoulders, and that has created a significant problem for us. He doesn't have a contract. He's not a normal athlete. He doesn't have a 3-year guaranteed contract. So one of his biggest stresses, when I saw him in the office, it was the medical concerns were secondary to the stress of him getting back to whatever show, whatever performance he had.
One time we did a demo where he fractured his hand, and he didn't have a hard enough grip on his bike to really hold the handlebars or hit the brake, so he just taped his hand to the grip and the brake, and did the rest of the shows.
I'm used to telling people it's going to take 6 months to a year to get back. Matt would always try to get back in 3 or 4 months instead of 6 months to a year.
He doesn't look at his body like other people look at their bodies. He looks at it like a bike part.
If I died with a body that wasn't completely wrecked, I'd feel like I completely wasted it.
Well, wow, I've never got applause for my failures, but thank you. Yeah, and I'm pretty lucky because I don't have to worry about dying with a body that's perfectly fine. And I'm also so blessed and lucky that I had Dr. Carlene Yates as my doctor. So, And I've lived with the motto that if you want to experience all the pleasure and successes in life, you have to be willing and able to take all the pain and failure. And if you want to, I mean, in life you have to pick your pain. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And to be an innovator, you're going to have to fight for it and be tough. Evil said this best too. He said, a man can fail many times in life, but he's never a failure until he refuses to get back up. And when I ride, I don't like, I hope I'm not going to get hurt. I know I'm going to get hurt. I know I'm going to be back in the hospital. I've accepted this. You know, it's my life I chose, and I've accepted the good with the bad. I think in every aspect of life, if you want to live your fullest, you have to go for it, and you have to never give up no matter what. And luckily, I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, and I grew up with 2 older brothers and an older sister who were all very tough. I was the youngest, and so it was kind of complete anarchy, no rules where I lived. We had BB guns blasting, horses. We'd walk our horse through the house to get her some water. You know, it was like, had farm animals, dodging bullets, riding rodeos. And I didn't know it at the time, but this was all kind of cross-training for my future career in my life. And so they taught me a lot about pain. And I learned in pain, like, I've dealt with a lot of pain in my life, and I've seen there's kind of a physical pain, and then there's psychological pain. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you have a look at a compound fracture, you look at lacerations, your body's in shock, and it really doesn't feel any pain, but your mind is like, whoa, you got to be in pain right now. And so after you get used to that, and you're used to, you're able to manage pain a little bit better. And I also, a big thing in my life is visualizing. I guess the main thing is visualizing and going for it, and just letting fear stimulate my instinct to embrace the moment. And what I do with visualizing is when I wanted to do a no-handed 900, it hadn't been done before, and I would just be walking around for probably 6 months before I ended up trying this trick. Is I'd be walking around, and I'd stop, and I'd be like doing this and trying to like feeling the momentum and the gyrations, and then I was just like, oh, I crashed, you know. I'd be like, my wife would be like, what is going on with you, you know? And I'm like, well, I didn't want to let it out, because for some reason, whenever I keep some of these ideas inside me, I feel like they're more powerful. But also, if I let them out, then I have expectation, and it's not a personal thing, and it has to be really personal when you're doing really risky things. And so I just kept it to myself. And then I remember whenever we went to, it was Philadelphia, it was the X Games, and Gianna was a little baby, but I told my wife JC, I was just like, please just go right in the front row, because I've got something I really want to do. I need some inspiration, but I also, what could happen if I don't do this. And so if I go down, I'm probably not getting back up, and I don't want to scar my daughter for life. So I'd appreciate it if you guys would both walk away, and because I got a whole stadium of people to take care of me, and it's just kind of covering all my fears. And so I drop in, do a no-hander, pop the lip, feeling the gyrations, and I was like, I popped it too hard, I'm gonna over-rotate. And then I took my hands off, and the centrifugal force to take my hands off just slowed my rotation down, so I was able to manage my rotation like that, and I evened it out, and I landed perfect. So it's and it kind of embodied what it is to be living for me. It was to dream, to don't fear, be willing to accept failure and learn from it, and be tough. Because, life isn't easy. You have to work hard to have the most fun in life and live your dream. So, guys, I thank you very much for letting me share some of my stories with you. And I have a final video, and then I'd love to answer any questions you might have. Please play video number 4.
The big air ramp, before, it was in my backyard in Oklahoma, and nobody knew it. Nobody else was ever going to ride this thing. Anybody that even looked at it, they thought I was crazy. It wasn't about the notoriety. It wasn't about the entertainment level of it. It wasn't about recognition. It was just about going out and dreaming up something that was just impossible, figuring it out, and doing it.
Whatever rules have been rewritten 100 times in concrete, they do not exist in his head. that's the fabric of who Matt is, and it extends into bikes, it extends into business, it extends into his personal life and his family. He absolutely sees no boundaries in anything.
This is a guy that had a passion so big to do stuff that had never been done before, stuff that not only pushed himself, but pushed every single person around him. He doesn't even have to say anything, just his presence makes other people achieve greatness.
That's all you need, you know, is a dream, a will, and you can achieve anything. I totally believe that. And that's why I'm gonna have wings sprout out of my back soon. I'm gonna fly off from this interview.
We've got time for some questions for Matt Hoffman. Good presentation, Matt. How many of you remember the movie Rad? Anybody remember that? Who did it star? Bart Conner, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Way back. Okay, we had some couple of questions. Let's go to the far one over here. Where are we? Okay. Oh no, we got a question again. Jesus. Make it one question, not two or three, okay? Jeez. And the only bike that you're on is in the fitness center. It doesn't move, so.
Man, I just want to thank you for the tip about using your arms to cure my over-rotations. That's been a problem I've had. I'm curious, did you have more fear jumping off the cliffs of Dover or giving this speech? And if so, how did you manage it?
Yeah, no, you're right. I had a lot more fear today, but I had to face my fear. But you're right. I was like, when I was coming up here, I was like, man, I wish I was just doing a no-handed 900. And I never thought I'd say that before, but yeah. But thanks for challenging places I'm not as strong in.
Matt, to your left over here.
So having worked Summer and Winter X Games for more than 10 years, everybody needs to know, I mean, it's evident up here, you are in the presence of a living legend. And there's not very many of the action sports industry. And having one being in the industry, being from Oklahoma is pretty impressive. So thank you, first of all, your dedication to Oklahoma.
Thank you.
And being who you are. My question is this: I got the opportunity to see you compete a lot and see a lot of the athletes compete. And I've always been curious, what is your favorite action sports moment of your career or somebody else's career, anytime that you've competed or you've been an organizer for a long time? What if there was one favorite moment of yours, what would it be?
Wow, there's so many of them. I mean, between all the heroes I've got to grow up around and watch perform and just, dispose of all limits around them. I've had Travis Pastrana's double flip at the X Games or Kevin Robinson's double flare. That was pretty spectacular. And I mean, I do have to say, my no-handed 900 that I rolled away conscious, I was really happy that happened because I wasn't expecting that. But there's so many. I'm lucky that I've been able to experience so many of those. And, yeah, thanks.
Right here in the middle.
Please tell us about your health insurance.
Yeah, no, that's whenever they weren't covering pre-existing, I was self-insured. So luckily I was just, for about 5 years of my life, I just had to pay cash. And but yeah, now I'm insured, so thank you.
All right, here in the middle again.
Thank you so much. You know, in addition to your performing or competing, you're also a businessman. Can you talk a little bit about starting your own business as a result of all this and about staying in Oklahoma and what that's all about and what you plan?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I really started my business as off a necessity because I needed to trust my life with what I put underneath my feet. And I was designing bikes for another company called Haro Designs, and they sold to a place, and they kind of lost their quality. And so that's whenever I was like, well, if I'm going to be riding these ramps, I got to trust how my bikes were made and what they're made out of. And so I started making them myself, and that's where Hoffman Bikes started. And then organizing contests and events, I just would. It was kind of it was whenever our sport was dead. They said nobody was getting into it and stuff, and it was that there wasn't very much money to be made in it, but there was a lot of enthusiastic hardcores that just loved the sport, and we just had to have like a assembly grounds for everybody to get together and celebrate our life and our culture and our community, and so then that's what I started doing, and then that kind of grew up into like whenever Ron Simeo decided to do this X Games, he met with me, and he was a very passionate man, and I identified with his passion, and so we were able to grow the X Games together. But why I've stayed in Oklahoma is because I need some space and freedom to dream, and here it's like I think that I feel like I have that. I can come up with anything, and if people don't agree with it here, I can apologize and then learn the lesson and not be like completely have like a criminal record from some of the dreams. so I appreciate that.
All right, this is not Carlin Yates, but Dr. Ron here in the middle.
Yeah.
I was first going to ask you how many bones you've broken in your life, but if Carlin Yates couldn't answer that question, he said too numerous to count, so I'm not going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So what was your worst injury that you've had?
Worst injury? Like probably the worst, but the best was when I had a splenectomy, because you're about to die, and then they take it out and then you're fine, so it's a weird recovery thing, and then all your organs have to find a new place and stuff, and that's kind of weird, but at least it's not like I'm out for 6 months having to recover. But I also I blew my ACL out, and then I blew my ACL and PCL out, and you know how it's hard to kind of measure your ACL from your PCL to try to do it, and Yates put that back together. And then I crashed. I took a year off, and then I crashed again. And then I blew my ACL out again. And so I was like, I can't take another year off. I'm going to totally lose all my muscle memory. And it's just like, it's going to be done. So I found this surgery, a synthetic surgery that Dr. De Jong in France came up with. And it was basically a piece of polyester that they were replacing your ACL with. And so I was like, oh, great, I'll get that done. Like, FDA won't allow it in America. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just use the French Canadian treaty, send it to Canada. Sent it to Montreal. I had a doctor that could put it in Toronto. Brought him up there, and then I got there and they're like, hey, we really want FDA to sanction this. They agree that anesthetics are the most dangerous part of surgery. Would you do this without any anesthetics? And I was like, I'd save $200, okay, So so I did it without any anesthetics, and so it's just like this, and then even whenever they drilled through my leg 8 inches, I had to hold the drill as they undid it, and then took it out the other side, and it was a bizarre experience, and then I went. They didn't give me any pain pills after or anything, and so then I went to the hotel, and I just like I couldn't. I had to crawl to the bathroom. Well, actually, I used chairs as crutches like this, and but then it took 3 days, and then and they didn't give me crutches. So I didn't even have crutches. I guess but so Canada's good for some things and not good for base jumping is good for surgeries. I don't know about that, but anyway, yeah, that's a quick.
Probably could use you in the capital for against socialized medicine, like in Europe. So thank you very much. We're very proud of you.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
Matt, most of us don't grow up with your visions of success, but I was curious, at what age did you really realize you had this adrenaline junkie to me? Were you in your toddler and fell off the porch or something and landed on the wheels? There's something what was the motivating factor that made you pursue a career of this?
Genetics. I mean, I'm the most sane of all my family. Like people are like, wow, you're so crazy. I was like, you've never met my father or my brothers, or my sister. They're way crazier than I am. So I'm like worked really hard to be normal, and I thought I was pretty normal until I like share my life with people. I'm like, whoa, what's wrong with you?
To your right.
Okay, speaking of genetics, we were visiting over here. If your daughter wants to follow in your footsteps, how would you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, it's all about passion, and it's and with passion comes a tax, and I would much rather, as a father, them get into something that's not health insurance dependent. But you know, you gotta follow your love, and so whatever they want to do, that's what they want to do, and I'm sure they're gonna surprise me. But yeah, I mean, my daughter and son are already making waves in their lives and what they love, so it's cool.
So a lot of times people will get hurt and they stop doing what they love for fear of getting hurt again. Obviously that doesn't bother you. How do you get past that? I might get hurt in the future and just keep going.
Because I know I'm going to get hurt in the future. I mean, I've accepted all that. I mean, you have to. I think to really to follow your passion, like I was saying, comes with it. It's not easy, you know. It's like it's hard, and so I don't know. I think I just grew up with brothers that tested my pain tolerance, and my father he was always knew good doctors because he was in the medical field, and so I just saw like Spike said, you know, I saw my body as just an instrument to be used to follow my dreams, and sometimes my instrument broke and I had to get it repaired, put it in the body shop, you know.
I was just curious if you see yourself at any point quitting.
No, I mean, obviously every time I ride, I know it could be my last time because the dangers I face and things that happen, and I could get beat up. But I don't really have. It's who I am. It's what I am. So it's like I'll do it as long as I want, and as long as I can. And now the older I get, of course, I don't ride the same caliber I did when I was like 16 or 18 or something. But now it's like I've had so many operations and I've had so many injuries that I've had to readapt my body to my bike. So now it's kind of like, oh wait, I could do that with 3 arms, but now I just have 1. How am I going to do it now? You know, so it's like you just have to. That's kind of the new challenge of my life with what I do, is just how I keep challenging myself, and even if the challenge is just doing it with a body that's broke.
All right, Matt, to your far left, we have 2 questions over here.
Yes, you didn't say too much about problems with equipment failure. Is that, have those been problems? And if so, could you just make a few remarks about it, please?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I started my own bicycle company, is because before, like, for instance, a few things like that I innovated is forks were 2-piece steer tubes, and a steer tube is the piece of metal that goes down and attaches to your fork legs. And with it being 2-piece, there'd be a lot of welding, a lot of heat right there, and to make it brittle. And I started seeing friends that were pushing the boundaries like I was would snap it right there, and friends were breaking necks, and they were just like, people were getting seriously injured. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, if I want to take this bike and I want to put it 50 feet higher than whatever any of these other people are doing, I need to figure out how to solve this engineering. And so I took steer tubes and I just machined them out of solid 4130 chrome ollie. And then so there's no weak element right there. And then I tapered the fork legs, and then I made all the axles in bikes. They used to be 3/8, now they're all 1/2 inch. And now this is all a norm in the industry, and so this is standard. But this all started because I just needed a bike I could survive with, dreaming with, you know, and going big.
Hi, Matt. Liesl Safi. I have a question. Going to your events and bringing the World Championships here, what can we do as a community and a business community to help encourage that event to come here in the future?
Yeah, I think this is the start of it. Just that you guys like what we do, and I think that, you know, this is just such a positive. I mean, who knows what I would be into if it wasn't for with this sport in my life, where I could give so much energy to something so positive. And I think for bringing it here, I helped design the skate park downtown. It's named after me, and we would just basically we just need some support, you know, financial support to do that. Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, we're starting to get a lot of more momentum and support we've got a couple other world championships in the making or whatever. So it would be a discussion that I'd love to have with anybody that's interested. So I think it would be amazing, because I've been doing the World Championships for 36 years. I competed in the second World Championships 35 years ago, and and it's been all over the world. And I've been the president for the last 10 years, and it hasn't been in Oklahoma. Or it hasn't been in the U.S. It's never been in the U.S. So this would be really amazing.
Hi, Matt.
Hi.
With USA BMX coming to Tulsa now, it seems like we're building kind of an ecosystem for the sport more in Oklahoma. Do you see that impacting, and what is the state of like youth getting involved in the sport in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, it's kind of two different cultures and communities with USA BMX and the freestyle BMX, because it's BMX racing, which is done kind of as a race around tracks, and freestyle is kind of more of an abstract judging system where you judge overall impression. And so but it's still, we still intertwine, and there's a lot of disciplines that we both perform together with and stuff. But yeah, what was the question about how is it stimulating more kids getting into it? Yeah, it seems like it like there's a it's hard to say. It's like I see, like I think there's a new group of younger kids getting into it right now, and so it's kind of we're kind of going in between cycles right now. But I feel like with it going in the Olympics and all this new promotion about like just people supporting it more, and it even though it's like when I grew up with it, it was kind of a rebel sport, and now it's like everybody's embracing it and seeing all the positive aspects that I've always dreamed of, and so I think that's just going to keep endorsing it and growing it.
All right, let's hear it for Oklahoma City's own Matt Hoffman.
Hey, thank you very much.